everyone, and welcome to an overview of Maelstrom in V Premium following the release of Clan Collection Volume 3. This is a video I've been looking forward to making for quite some time, and now I finally get to make it. The reveal of Maelstrom Reverse had many of us thinking that Maelstrom as a deck would change its playstyle substantially. But I found that, for me and my playstyle at least, it doesn't actually change the overall contents of the deck that much. In reality, it only bolsters the plays Maelstrom already had going for it. That being said, what's the deck's game plan? Well, let's get into that. The deck's overall game plan is to whittle down the opponent's resources by threatening them with both the original and reverse Maelstroms. Original Maelstrom will restand with multiple drive checks thanks to Press Stream Dragon, leading to a greater chance at hitting critical triggers and more resources for you to use in hand. Reverse Maelstrom will retire units on the opponent's side of the field, and demand perfect guards from the opponent if they're at 3 or more damage. Additionally, they'll have to get rid of even more of their cards if they successfully guard Reverse Maelstrom. Finally, we finish our opponent off with Blue Storm Supreme Dragon Glory Maelstrom, a card that will demand every PG your opponent owns and then some, securing our way to victory. Now, what cards do we run to help us in our game plan and snag the win? Well, these. But this video isn't just so I could slap a list on screen and call it a day, so let's go card by card and explain why we run the cards we do, starting with our main Vanguards. The first of our main Vanguards is Blue Storm Dragon Maelstrom, which we run at 4. This is our first grade 3 ride and our main way of dealing damage. His skill allows us to counterblast 1 for 3k to the front row, which does come up and helps us make numbers, especially against force clans. His second skill allows us to discard 2 cards and restand after our 3rd or 4th battles hit, helping us dig deeper and get those crits. Our second ride is 2 copies of Blue Storm Karma Dragon Maelstrom Reverse. His effect says that if our battling rearguard's attack did not hit, we can lock a standing unit and get 10k for our Vanguard. If we have a Maelstrom in Soul, we get to retire an opponent's card as well. His second skill is active on the 4th battle or more, and allows us to counterblast 1 for an additional crit and drive, making him scary to no guard on 3 or more damage. Finally, if the opponent successfully guarded against Reverse Maelstrom, he forces them to get rid of cards on their field and or hand equal to the number of locked cards you have. Overall, he's an excellent option for situations where our opponent has a few too many units on their field that we don't like. That being said, oftentimes I find that staying on our original Maelstrom can be just as, if not more effective than Maelstrom Reverse. His ability to restand and get us more advantage, paired with the pressure his multiple drive checks have, is nothing to sneeze at. Plus, a standard first grade 3 turn only requires 2 additional units on the field, whereas a turn with Reverse Maelstrom requires at least 3, and definitely more if you want to take advantage of his locking ability. So if you're torn between riding Maelstrom Reverse on your second grade 3 turn or staying on the OG Maelstrom, try to take into account how many resources you and your opponent have and whether or not you feel confident you can survive another turn if you don't manage to kill them first. And our final main Vanguard is 3 copies of Blue Storm Supreme Dragon Glory Maelstrom. He is our final ride and main finisher. His effect lets us counterblast 1 and keep our opponent from intercepting or from using more than 1 card in their hand to guard per battle. Additionally, if we have another Maelstrom in Soul, he gives our entire front row 10k power. That means that as long as we can hit above 28k against Force clans or 27k against any other clan, our opponent will not be able to guard without a PG. Why? Because of these things. The new Heal Guardians from the previous clan collection. They help in the early game, but after that they're just 15k shields, which makes it easier for us Maelstrom players when we drop our Glory Maelstrom. Now, why do we run 3 Glory and 2 Reverse instead of 2 Glory and 3 Reverse? Well, it all comes down to personal preference. I mentioned before that I find OG Maelstrom to be better for maintaining advantage in a longer game, and as a result I don't need to see Maelstrom Reverse as often. Glory though? I'd like to be able to keep at least 1 copy of him in hand at all times if possible, so being able to see him semi-frequently ensures that I have my game ender once the time comes. Now let's move on to our other units. Starting off, we have 4 copies of Drifting Flow Fencer. His effect on the Vanguard or rearguard circles when placed allows us to check the top 7 cards of our deck for a Maelstrom. His second skill gives him an additional 15k power when he attacks in the 4th battle or more if our Vanguard is a Maelstrom. On a Glory Maelstrom turn, that puts him well above the threshold for guarding at 34k. He gets us cards, he's a beater, what's not to love? Speaking of card advantage and beaters, our 4 copies of Press Dream Dragon enable us to counterblast 1 and discard a Maelstrom to give our Maelstrom Vanguard an additional 10k power and drive. He is absolutely crucial to see on our OG Maelstrom turns, as the Dangerous Duo or the main way will be seeing more cards and adding that pressure every turn. As for how we'll get Maelstrom to restand, well, we do that with 3 copies of Jewel Staff of Emerald, Elpida. Continuously on the Van or rearguard circles, she gets an additional 5k power and shield if we have a Maelstrom Vanguard. This lets her hit those magic numbers against most decks on an Excel circle. Her second skill lets us counterblast 1 when she attacks to have our on-hit effects activate during that battle. I know a lot of people don't like the card, but I have to say I'm still a big fan of it. The 29k on a Glory turn comes up a lot, and the fact that she enables our on-hit effects makes her too good to pass up. Finally, for our grade 2 cards, we run 2 copies of Terrific Coil Dragon. His skill says that when he attacks for the first battle, we can Soul Blast 1 and restand it, after which his second skill activates. Once per turn, when he restands via a card effect, he gets an additional 5k power. Terrific Coil is good for some early game aggression and gives us more attacks on a reverse turn for the price of just 1 unit. On top of all that, like Elpida, he too hits 29k on an Excel circle, so if all you have on your final turn are him and Glory Maelstrom, you can still easily close out the game. For grade 1 units, we run 4 copies of Bubbleball Corporal. Her skill on Van or Rear lets us check the top 7 cards of our deck for a Maelstrom if her attack or boost ended up hitting. She's the other main searcher for our pieces alongside Drifting Flow Fencer. Next, we run another on-hit enabler, 4 copies of Radiate Assault. We can Soul Blast 1 so during the battle he attacks or boosts, we can have our on-hit effects trigger during that battle. After which we can take a Maelstrom from our drop, put it to the bottom of our deck, and draw a card. Drawing him over Elpida is preferable for enabling OG Maelstrom's restand, seeing as you want to save as much of your counterblast as possible for Press Dream and eventually Glory Maelstrom. Finally, for grade 1 units, we run 3 copies of Battle Siren Viviana. Her skill says that after the battle she attacked or boosted hit, if it's the 3rd battle of the turn or more, she goes into Soul, gives 3k to one of our units, and nets us a draw. She may be a more controversial pick for the deck, but I find that her effect comes up plenty of times. The additional power, much like with OG Maelstrom's effect, helps us make those numbers, and the draw lets us dig even further for more pieces. And lastly, for normal units, we have our starter, Officer Cadet Erikk. Does it matter which starter we run? No. So go ahead and pick whichever one you want. Now, on to our triggers. For triggers, we start with 4 copies of Escutcheo Bubble Dragon, the Aqua Force Heal Guardian. If your opponent hit grade 3 before you can give your Vanguard an additional 10k power for the turn, or take 2 crit away from an opponent's unit for that battle. And if you get damage denied, you can put him in play and take a damage so you can use your skills. All around, it's a great card, and because everybody runs it, Glory Maelstrom is even more lethal. Next, we have 4 Emerald Shield Paschal. We like drawing cards, so we play him over Petros. Not much to it. Then we have a 3-3 split on Blue Storm Marine General Despina and Supersonic Sailor. Fronts are a thing of the past for this deck. Back when Glory was first revealed, they were far more useful, but now with dedicated on-hit enablers for our restanding Vanguard and reverse Maelstrom, there really is no reason to run fronts over crits in this deck. Finally, for triggers, we run 2 Pyroxene Communications Sea Otter Soldier. Why? Or draw power. That's all there is to it. Now let's get on to why I'm playing the deck the way I am. First up, there's the other card that supports this deck from Clan Collection, Tier Knight Valeria. Why did I choose not to run her? Well, she's meant to be paired up with Reverse Maelstrom, but I find myself not really being able to use her effect properly. She's in an awkward position where she battles after Reverse Maelstrom does, seeing as they both trigger on the 4th or more. As a result, if you have a locked back row, cards like Radiate Assault can't ensure that her on-hit effect actually goes off. And while it is true that you get to retire either way with Valeria and Reverse both on the field, my preferred playstyle with the deck has me running OG Maelstrom as my Vanguard more often than not anyway, so that benefit ends up being lost. Additionally, we need more on-hit enablers, and Elpida can both hit numbers just like Valeria without having to hit the 4th battle or more, and she enables a restand. I would definitely play her in a build more focused on Maelstrom Reverse, but as it stands, Elpida just gets more done for me. The same could be said for any of these other options that would be used in a more reverse-centric build. If you want my take on what that might look like, here it is. It's a deck that has low resource recovery but insane pressure. Feel free to try both builds out and see which one better suits your playstyle. And that's all I've got. If you made it to the end here, I want to thank you for sticking around. I'll try not to make deck profiles as long as my last one again, unless you guys want me to. I'd been putting this off for so long because I just couldn't get the deck to perform the way I wanted it to. Reverse Maelstrom really threw me for a loop. It kind of upended everything that I had planned on doing. But after a lot of time and effort, I got it to a place where I'm mostly comfortable with it. I actually plan on taking this deck to SPRINGFEST Ontario, which at the time of this recording is a week away from now. We're Team 4th Fall, so look out for us. I'm going to be there with my friends Godsman00 and Gear Shift. I plan on making a follow-up video up to this one where I go over my thoughts on the deck after the event. After that, I've got tons more Aqua Force decks to cover, as well as some Link Joker. Anyway, hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.